Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Martha Simmons with another session of preaching and preaching on Facebook Live via Restream. Good afternoon. Come on in and let me know that you are out there for another great session. I know that people are going to be helped by this session. Come on in and let me know that you're out there. Give people a moment to come on in. Come on in. There we go. There we go. I see people coming in slowly but surely. And when you come in, type in the name of another person who you know will be helped by this broadcast. They can jump on and view it now, or they can view it in their leisure. It will be up on my page for 2 weeks, so you can tell your friends that they want to hear from these panelists on this topic. They really do want to. Come on in. Come on in. Good morning to my people on the West Coast. Good afternoon to everybody else. Tracy Holly, good to have you with me. That's Dr. Angela Sims is telling Tracy Holly to get on. All right, all right. I appreciate you, Dr. Sims. Okay, it sounds like I am getting feedback. The devil is always busy. Herbert Ponder, good to have you with me. Reverend Ponder, type in the name of another person you know needs to view this broadcast. Going to give people about another 30 seconds to come on in. And shout out to my people in the Midwest. I had a couple of people who say, you never mentioned the Midwest. Shout out to my people in the Midwest. Okay.
Well, we
There,
represented here today.
I did that. I did that. Wendell Craig Woods, good afternoon. Marco McNeil said, hey, Reverend Kelly X.
Hello. Come on in here.
All right, all right, all right. All right, come on in the room. Type in the name of a person you know needs to view this broadcast. Let's go ahead and
Mm.
get started. Since I want to give my great guests as much time as possible. As always, we are praying for those who are sick. We're praying for those who are experiencing a season of bereavement. And then I am praying today for all students as they return to school, from
Mhm.
daycare to those who are about to start seminary, start law school, finish law school, start college, finish college. I am praying for students. One quick announcement: next Monday at noon, I will be talking about, with amazing guests, the important topic Project 2025.
Mm.
It's critical
Mm.
that we talk
Mhm.
about it, and we're going to talk about it as well as offer some ways that you can bring it up in your community as well as address it in your community. So that is Monday, the 26th at noon. But
Mm.
today, the topic is pastoring small churches. And I am just honored to do this because small churches are the backbone of
Mhm.
the country, and they have always been. Have always been. There's never been a time since the existence of this country that mega churches were the backbone. That's never happened. Okay.
Mhm.
And they're still less than 3%. So for those of you who go on television and you see mega preachers, etc., they are less than 3%. The people doing the heavy lifting, the everyday work, are people like my guest. So I wanted to talk to them about the subject, especially since so many churches, like I said, are represented by my guests. Let me introduce them to you. We begin with Reverend Kelly X. She is the pastor of the Village Church,
Hmm.
an African centered Christian church, Disciples of Christ congregation in Madison, Tennessee. She's also the director of racial justice ministries at the Scarlett Bennett Center. Reverend X grew up on the south side of Chicago, west side, and attended Tennessee State University, where she earned a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. After nearly a decade working with children and families with mental illnesses and maneuvering the foster care system, Reverend X stepped deeper into her call to ministry by attending Vanderbilt University, where she earned a Master of Divinity. Uh, she is also very active in the community, and she is motivated by Psalm 150 and Romans 12:1. She's dedicated her life to inspiring her congregation to live lives of worship to God and service to the world. She's already doing what
Mm.
is a major part of the success of small churches. She's partnering and collaborating with so many groups such as Nashville Organized, Planned Parenthood, More Movement Tuesday. And she is the regional board second vice moderator for the Disciples of Christ. Uh, she also had an interest in chaplaincy, and which culminated, let me say it that way, which culminated in her being a member of Vanderbilt University Medical Center's inaugural cohort of chaplain residents. She combines her commitment to justice with her gifts of chaplaincy, as I said, at the Scarlett Bennett Center. Welcome, Reverend X. Come
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me today.
All right. Next, we have Reverend Trenton Lamar Green. He's a graduate of Grambling State University
There you go,
in
Tiger.
Grambling, Louisiana.
There
You
it
can
is.
tell, I got a group here. Where he earned a Bachelor of Arts in Vocal Music Performance. He earned his
Ooh.
Master of Divinity from Beeson Divinity School. He also earned a Master of Clinical Mental Health Counseling at the University of Cumberland in Williamsburg, Kentucky. He has a wide diversity of gifts. He also was privileged to be selected to complete a summer internship in the Christian education ministry at the Church Without Walls, pastored by Dr. Ralph West. He served as a youth pastor at Christ Temple in Grambling, Louisiana. And in March of 2016, he became the pastor of the St. Clair Baptist Church in Chatham, Louisiana, where his
Mm.
ministry is to seek the leading of God, share the love of God, and serve in a way that lifts God. Pastor Green wholeheartedly believes in the old proverb that reads, communities grow when individuals plant trees whose shade they know they will never sit under.
Yeah.
Last but not least, we have the Reverend Dylan Sellers. Reverend Sellers is a dedicated husband. He wanted you to know this. He's a dedicated husband, brother, son, and passionate community activist. He was born and raised in the heart of Cleveland. He graduated from Kent State University with a degree in Pan African Studies, delving deeply into issues that affect marginalized communities. In 2020, he was installed as the pastor of the Purpose Community Church, a house church in Cleveland, Ohio. Through his role as pastor, he leads and serves the congregation with compassion, guiding them on their spiritual paths and fostering a sense of community. In
Mm.
addition to his pastoral duties and his activism, he serves as the National HBCU Director for the Fair Election Center Legacy Initiative. This is your year, my brother, where he
Amen.
supports historically black colleges and universities in their efforts to strengthen and develop plans to keep their students civically engaged. He's committed to community justice, empowerment, and spiritual growth. Welcome, everybody. Good to
Wow.
have you
Well,
all with me.
Thank
Uh,
you for having us.
Thank you, Dr.
thank you for
Simmons.
having us.
my pleasure, my pleasure. Let's get right to it. Get right to it. You are with Dr. Martha Simmons on another session of Preaching and Preachers. When you come on, type in the name of another person you know needs to view this broadcast. They can jump on right now or they can watch it in their leisure. It will be on my page for 2 weeks. Let me get to the question. Let's start with Reverend Sellers. Tell us a bit about the church you pastor and how long you've pastored that church. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, first, let me say thank you for hosting this broadcast on this very important topic. And I also want to say to my brothers and sisters who I am so eager to get to know, thank you for being on this panel with me. I like to joke that Purpose Community Church is your strong friends church, right? This is the church for people who help people, where their daily life is the thing that they are taking care of, family and friends. They do social service work. This is where they come to just be community amongst themselves, where they're
Right.
not necessarily worried about having to take care of everybody else around them, right?
Hmm.
We say for Purpose Community Church, we target the people who have um, either walked away from church, been burnt out by it, or forgotten by the church,
Okay.
right?
All right.
We're the the edges. We got
Mm-hmm.
the people who are on the edges.
Okay. All right. All right. Reverend Kelly, tell us a bit about the church that you pastor and how long you've been doing it.
Thank you. I want to say thank you again for this opportunity. Thank you for this opportunity to be with these amazing pastors in this moment. I have the honor of pastoring the Village Church. I have been the pastor of the Village Church since November of 2013. The Village is an African centered Christian community. I'm going to give you our mission statement called to worship God, study the Bible inquisitively, and cultivate leaders to spread God's transformative love. And so we do this in a number of different ways, both by gathering and worshiping, hanging out and kicking it together. And one of the things that I think that has been very instrumental in that is that we both want to I preach a progressive gospel, but also want to have an opportunity for them to live it out. And so on our fourth Sundays, we either do a self-care event where you could maybe do a little yoga or put together your vision plan for the year, or as what we're doing next Sunday, which is collect period products for kids and public schools here in Nashville. And so it's just an opportunity for us to really live out what we believe. And so we're very family centered organization. Church that loves on each other, that allows space for folks to be truly vulnerable in the best ways without shame, and truly learn how much God loves them and live that love out in loving their neighbors.
All right. Reverend Green, how about you?
Thank you again, Dr. Simmons, for this wonderful opportunity, and to my brother and my sister. I am excited about getting to know you all. I pastor the St. Clair Church there in Chatham, Louisiana. It's a rural community. It's about 600 people, and there are about six other Black Baptist churches in the area. On this side of COVID, I feel like I pastor three different congregations:
Hmm.
Mm.
the people who come just in person, the people
Mm-hmm.
who are just online, and the people
Mhm.
who traffic between the two.
Between the 2. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
So we're
Mhm.
just trying to do the best we can. I have older members, nobody under 50, just because of the demographics of the community, and we just try to do ministry. I've been there, as you said, since 2016.
Okay, okay,
That's right.
okay, okay. I love that he said three congregations
Yeah.
because so many churches are right where you are. And so I'm
Mhm.
glad you named it. They got the
Mhm.
people who are going to come to the building. They got the folk who just they online. They gonna be online. They got online, and that is working for them. And then we got the folk who go back and forth between the two. So that makes for and requires a different style of pastoring than
Mhm.
what the average pastor is used to doing. Okay, that requires flexibility. That
For
requires
sure.
some that requires some flexibility, and it requires an understanding of how to use technology. Okay, it requires it. It requires it. If you have three congregations and you have no understanding of technology and you pastor a small church, it's gonna be difficult for you.
Mm.
It's gonna be
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
difficult for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Reverend Sellers, you know, every time, because I talk about small churches, I try to do it at least once every year. And as I said at the beginning, small churches are the backbone of this country, meaning churches with 75 or fewer members. Um, they're the backbone of the whole country, whether you are black, white, Latino, Asian, Asian American, they are the backbone. But I've seen so many pastors, and I've had many pastors express to me that they are kind of ashamed, or
Mm.
rather shy about saying, I pastor a small church. Have you wrestled with wanting to pastor a larger church, being ashamed? Have you wrestled with any of that? And if so, tell us about
Um, I can't say that I struggled with wanting to pastor a larger church. I'm a community
it.
organizer by trade,
Okay.
and so I grew up. I grew up in in a mega church. So our church is
Mhm.
small intentionally, right?
Mm, okay.
Because it is community. It is a community organized, a community focused church, and so we want to
Okay.
live life together. So I can't say that I ever struggled with that. I have struggled with wanting to make sure that my church was impactful, right?
All right.
And not
All right.
sure if I'm as impactful as if our ministry is as impactful as it should be. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's where I get trapped in my comparison trap, right?
Mhm.
Like
Right.
more people doesn't do it for me, but like how much impact are we actually having in the community around us? And I think that that's where I've got caught up.
Mhm.
And so I try to stay off of social media because social media is where I get caught up.
Yeah.
That's where I get
Yeah,
caught up.
and that and doing that comparison trap. Oh, that
That's right.
they
That's right.
they did 5 marches and fed this many people, etc. How many? Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that
Right.
comparison.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
Instead of, as one of my kids often says, keeping your eyes on your own paper.
Mm.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah,
Amen.
'cause
That's right.
that's God is grading you, not your neighbor compared to you, just you.
Mhm.
Right.
Just you.
Mhm.
That's
Reverend
right.
Kelly, have you ever struggled with this or felt ashamed to say, I'm pastor a small church?
Not really. I think the great part about pastoring the village is that it really is my village. One of the things that's really interesting is that I pastor a church that I used to be a member of, so that was a difficult transition from
Okay.
being a parishioner to being the leader. And so
Mm,
that took to some changes. That's a difficult place to be. But I will say probably the more difficult piece is around the level of resources given the size of the
yes.
congregation,
Yes.
and I know what it means to then have to be bivocational. And so and when it comes to impact, it's about how do I split my time to make sure that I'm showing
Right.
up in this place.
That's right.
And then
Hmm.
as we do the service projects that we're doing on a regular basis, as we're doing this, our pot is smaller, but it also requires us to use our own resources and to
Absolutely.
then reach out to folks who may not be, because then we also have those who may not show up on Sunday or watch, but when they know they're, oh, you all giving period products? Where, can I drop off some pads? Like, we've got those people who are also, or they're like, oh, y'all doing the African drumming dance, so they want to come. And so how do we do it in a way? And so it becomes this feeling of both having great vision, great ministry, great community, and but at the same time, resources aren't always what we want them to be. And
Yes.
knowing that I have to do a different job in order to make sure that my household is well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also that I'm not mad on Sunday morning. You
My
know what I
God.
mean?
That's
I
right.
want to.
That's right.
I gotta be happy
That's
to
right.
be there because
Yeah.
I know that I'm being taken care of, and that we're utilizing what the church is giving in a way that really blesses the congregation, and it's not a money grab by no means
Yeah.
on this end, because it ain't no lot of money to grab.
Oh,
Ain't no money to grab.
That's still the truth.
for
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
99% of pastors who pastor
Hmm.
small churches, it's not a money grab because ain't no money to grab.
Ain't no
Okay?
money to
That's right.
grab. Yeah,
Ain't
yeah,
no money,
yeah.
ain't no money to grab.
Hmm. Hmm.
UCC, I can tell you about small churches, ain't no money to
Hmm.
grab. Ain't no money to
Hmm.
grab. Reverend Green, how about you? Have you ever felt that wrestling or been ashamed to talk about and tell people I pastor a small church?
I have, and if I'm honest, I do.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, it's almost been become like canon for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
people saying, if you're gifted enough,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
what this leads to.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
pursue training,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
this is what this leads to.
Right.
And in thinking about your question, it's funny because we're all pastors.
Mm-hmm.
The scale is different, but the responsibilities are very much the same.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So my issue has been preaching, teaching, doing pastoral care, being a CFO,
Yeah.
being the young adults pastor, the seasoned saints pastor, the
Yes.
middle aged pastor,
Yeah.
um, being the CFO,
Mm-hmm.
being the social media person.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah.
it's been a lot. I remember, if I can share this, my dad passed earlier this year,
Mm.
and he passed on a Saturday, and I had a member text me that Wednesday after, Pastor, we need to finalize the women's program, the Women's Day program.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it was like, wow, I have nobody to pass this to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as my sister said, resources, one thing,
Hmm.
being bivocational, that's another thing. But it's like, it's one thing to be small, as my brother alluded to, but it's another thing to feel small, I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
as relates to the largeness
That's
and
it.
the,
Hmm.
bigness of the need.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
There, and
That's
I'm
good, brother.
glad that you are honest about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because societies gives us the church world gives us these messages that say this leads to this leads to this leads to that. And the truth
Hmm.
is, and I really hope we hear this today, the truth is, you can be talented, prophetic, and well trained, and God lead you to pastor a small church.
That's
It
right.
Yes.
is not an indictment against your talent, against your training, okay, or against your faithfulness. It
Yeah.
is not. If it is, then the majority of the pastors in the country would be indicted. Because
Mm.
as
Yeah.
I said in the beginning, most pastors in the country, get this now, open the doors every single Sunday or go online with fewer than 75 members. I
Hmm.
don't know why we can't get that when we see it every Sunday, but it's
Mm.
the truth. And we all know, just as is the case with three people I have as guests today, these are talented people. These are gifted people. These are trained people, right? And they are part of the backbone of the church throughout the nation. The
Yeah.
nation. But I appreciate Reverend Green saying, when you hear those messages that say this ought to lead you to this ought to lead you to that, etc., that it can get to you. It can get to you. So I just want us to just be careful about the messages we're giving to young pastors, middle-aged pastors, and others about what leads to what. I don't know how we got into this. This is a straight line in ministry. Ministry ain't ever been a straight line for nobody.
It is not linear.
Doc,
Never
can
has
I
been.
can I say
Has
this?
been.
Because
Reverend Sellers, you were saying something. Go ahead.
yes, ma'am. It is the trap of capitalist society in America.
That's what.
Yes, sir.
That's
That's
it.
what's
That's
happening.
it. That's what
right?
it. That
It is
came to my. I said
it is
capitalism. Yeah.
It's capitalism because it's the
Mhm.
idea, and they lied to us too. They said if you graduate from high school and you go to college and you get good grades, this is what's going to happen in your life, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how it works, right? That's never been how it works, and then we let that seep into allowing us to direct traffic in God's house, in God's plan, when like he's always been known for using something that was small and insignificant to man to do major things in the kingdom. And
That
so
is the truth.
we can't adopt the American idea of what's supposed to happen and get this American dream of being a mega pastor, right? Like what is, and I have thoughts. I'll leave that where it's at because I don't want to hijack the thing, but I have thoughts.
Well, let's talk when this is over.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Why though? We won't tell the truth about it.
Yes.
Right.
Just tell the truth about it. However you feel, tell the truth about it. And the truth about it is that your brother or sister who pastors 2 blocks from you, they're pastoring a small church. The one across the street from you, they're pastoring a small church. The one around the corner, they're pastoring. Like I said, we've got to be honest about the numbers. Okay? Marcus Cosby's church is in the 1%. These people are in the 95%. The 95%. Okay? So they are a part of the backbone. Reverend Kelly, you started talking about the things that one has to do. And, because everybody on here is bivocational. And that's a whole discussion as well. And any of you feel free to talk about it if they wish. What's been the most difficult, though? I'm going to say in the last 2 or 3 years for you as a senior pastor, was it COVID recovery, too little money, not enough time, your secular job, being a mom and a wife? What's been the most difficult recently?
I would say that honestly, for us, COVID helped us financially because we don't have a building, because we're not big enough. We don't have, and so because we didn't have a building, we were able to cut 70% of our payments because all we were doing was paying for storage. And so, but prior to coming, the congregation was saying, this feels good, but I feel like we're missing something. Something else needs to happen. What are we doing? And so we were trying to figure out, how do we incorporate more service, more justice work into our congregation? So prior to COVID, we were like, every 5th Sunday, we'll do some type of service event, and we'll collect toiletries or items for unhoused people, or we'll do that. And so when COVID hit, and I'm sitting in the place where I'm preaching right now, it was saying, God said we got to do something different anyway, so let's do this differently for real. And so making that switch to both coming back into the sanctuary, and what does it mean? When do we come back? Because we are small and we do like to hug, and I don't want to be the place where someone dies because we hugged. And so
Yes.
like I got to care for these people. Then the second piece of it is like, so what does that comeback look like?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about preaching. I'm going to only preach on first and third Sunday. And
Okay.
don't, so folks aren't used to preaching on first and third. That
Mm-hmm.
second Sunday is going to be our what we call glow up. That's our young folks worship service. And instead of them leaving the sanctuary when it's time for them to do their children's time, we're going to just put everything and focus on them.
Mm.
And so switching that around and then doing either service or self-care on those others, that's great. But back to what Pastor Green is saying, even when we switch that up, now we need people
Right.
who are willing to do that thing. And
Do that.
so like we've got this idea, we've got this desire, but I don't want to burn folks out. I want people to be committed to the thing that they said they committed to. And so it becomes that balance of living out the ministry that God has given to us, that God has
Yeah.
called us to, while
Yes.
doing it in a way that says, how do we have rest? So over this summer, because I know they're going on vacation anyway, we just don't go back to Zoom. So for July,
Yeah.
we just go. Y'all not coming. Why
Do
am I
what
So
works.
struggling?
stop playing. Why are we doing this?
Why we
Yeah.
not? No, we ain't got to. Just watch
Do
it
what
online like
works.
you.
Do
That's
what
right.
works for
Right.
your people. You know your
Exactly.
people. Don't kill yourself trying to
Don't
do what every other church is
everybody
doing.
else does.
Okay.
hmm And
Serve
that's fighting against the capitalism. But yeah,
exactly.
That's
definitely.
right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Do what need. Because capitalism also. We'll tell pastors, your church, maybe you need to merge with somebody else. And there are churches that need to merge. Look,
hmm
make no
hmm
mistake
Absolutely.
about it. I've
hmm
helped some do it. I've talked some and told many you need to do it. But churches that need to merge are in a different category from what you all are doing. That's a
hmm
different
hmm
category. When the pastor has nothing left to give, okay, and
Mm.
doesn't want to admit it, then we can talk about merger.
hmm
Then
hmm
we can talk. Then we can talk about merger. But that's not what you all are doing. But people so often they don't tell large churches, okay, why don't you all go and help some smaller churches? Okay, not open 5
hmm
campuses, but
Uh,
help 5
Ooh.
churches.
aha.
Oh.
See, I'm confused. I'm confused about why we keep making the same mistakes. Who
hmm
needs 5 campuses? What is that for?
People
When
trying to
you,
establish empire.
yeah,
There you
there
go.
you go.
Talk
Ooh,
about it.
ooh, ooh.
Talk
I
about
gotta
it.
take another sip.
Okay.
Talk about it.
Need the water
but
to clear.
but
Yeah.
who needs 5 campuses when
Yeah.
you got 5 churches in your communities? You know
hmm
the preachers.
hmm
They're doing good work, and you could help them. Well, why would you need 5K? Why won't you? I remember when Frank Thomas, who was over at Mississippi
Mississippi
Boulevard,
Boulevard. Yeah.
yeah, and one of his pastors said, "I want to start a church." You know what Frank Thomas said? "We giving you 50 members to go with you."
hmm hmm
That's right.
hmm
That's right.
hmm
That's church. That's a non-capitalistic model.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, not I got 5 campuses. What? Why you got 5? What is that? You
Absolutely.
ain't even pastoring all of them. What is that about?
Go off.
I'm
It's a
just
it's a dangerous thing. It's
It,
a,
Absolutely.
yeah.
a
let,
dangerous
let
thing
me
to
get
be a
back to
pastor.
letting the
Yeah.
guests talk. Let me get off that soapbox.
Mm, mm.
Uh,
That was good talk. That was
Reverend
profound.
It was good
Keller,
hmm
talk.
Run hot,
Reverend
Reverend.
Keller is
hmm
Listen.
Reverend
You saying
Keller.
some stuff that might get me in trouble later. I ain't even gonna lie to
Okay,
you. I'm good with it though. I'm
I've
okay
been
with
I'm
known
it.
to
good
get.
with
I'm
it.
okay with it.
I have been known to get people in trouble. I apologize in advance.
Good
Oh,
trouble. Good trouble.
Yeah.
Reverend
Amen.
Sellers, let me ask you this, just a little bit of what I asked Reverend Kelly at. Um, what's been the most difficult for you in the last 2 or 3 years? Was it COVID recovery? Was it just still trying to get enough money to do the job? Has it been your bivocational schedule? What's been most difficult in the last couple of years?
Recognizing that God called me to the position and not some different version of me.
Oh,
Oof,
okay.
that's
Um,
good.
that was that's been the most difficult because again, I made the transition from community organizing to the pastorate, and I still
Mhm,
do community organizing work, right?
mhm,
For my job, and so recognizing that all the work that God gives me is holy and not separating this.
Oh, I like
Mm-hmm.
that. I
That's
like
Mm-hmm.
it.
that's
I like it.
been the most difficult thing that like he called me and knew who I was and my beginning from my end, my insecurities, my struggles, all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
he still wanted me to do it, right? He's gonna grow me and all of that, but that was the most difficult thing to figure out, and I'm still in the process of figuring it
Yes,
out
sir.
because once I understand that, like my life has gotten a little bit easier, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Understanding that me showing up as a pastor doesn't negate my responsibility of showing up as a husband, right? Doesn't negate my responsibility of showing up as also a community leader, right? That all of that is necessary to glorify the kingdom of God, right?
Yeah.
And so like it's been difficult, like bringing my whole self and turning that over to the Lord.
Oh my God. I
Mm.
mean,
Mm.
you all are talking of like what the pastors are saying when they get together to hang out. Man, on my other job, I
Yeah.
do
Hmm.
X, Y, Z. And then at the church, I do X, Y, Z, and there's a kind of a chasm between the
Yeah.
two. And so it's wonderful to hear about your bringing those two things together, and that collaboratively you're showing up as who God wants you to be. Reverend Green, what's been most difficult for you in the last couple of years?
Well, as my sister said, COVID was good for our church.
Okay.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So when things start opening back up, support, virtual support began to diminish. People
Mm-hmm.
start going
Mm-hmm.
back to church.
Yeah.
Then in think the first Sunday in 2022, we opened our doors to go back to church. And for the past 2 years, I've been having to help members to understand that we are back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They've been
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, Pastor, when we get back," it's like, "Hey, you know,
Yeah. We back.
we're back."
Yeah.
And something else, being bivocational, I'm in counseling, so it's like doing pastoral care all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So working those hours and also struggling with what it means to be faithful to pastoring week by week.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
Hmm.
like if I'm not able because I don't have the bandwidth to put 15 hours into a sermon,
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
that okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Um, and of course, when things were shut down
Who,
in
Mike?
COVID,
You're talking.
when things were shut
Hey.
down with COVID, we got to see so much more, so
Mm-hmm.
many more
Mm-hmm.
needs, so many concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also like, how do we attack this? How do we take our chunk of the elephant, right, with what we have coming in and what are the resources that we have available? So it's
Mm-hmm.
those have been tied up into one big bowl has been my
Yeah.
challenge the last 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a whole lot. So, Reverend Kelly, what advice would you give to pastors who see small churches as basically stepping stones? There are actually preachers who believe
Mm.
that you start at a small church, you move to a mid-sized church, and then you go to your retirement church. So that first church is a stepping, if they see it as a stepping stone. And I remember having a young preacher say to me, well, Doc, they're going to probably close anyway.
My, my.
So I'm gonna do my time and get on. And it's not that they weren't telling the truth, that
Mm,
the church probably was going to close, but I
mm.
just found that an interesting approach, an interesting mindset,
I'm sad. Yeah.
yeah, to
Mm,
have while
mm.
serving the peace of people. God. Anyway, what? Just give me some advice. Just give me some advice for pastors who see churches as stepping stones. My small church is a stepping stone.
So I'm going to have to pull again from what Pastor Green said. When you're in a small church, you're doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a dip your toe in type of ministry.
Mm.
This is you've gotta be all the way in and ready to do it. And it is building your team. It I would, as someone who has not pastored a larger congregation but has been a part of larger congregations, what I remember as a member were teams of both paid and non-paid folks who are willing to work to move that ministry. And at a
Absolutely.
certain point, to be very honest, what some of our siblings in the ministry don't realize is that oftentimes that church don't actually need you. They gonna
Whoa,
run.
whoa.
They've created a system. They what they're interested in is maintaining the institutions that their grandmothers and great grandmothers, they are honoring the ancestors in the midst of doing this work, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so hopefully what they're looking for are pastors who are willing to buy into their vision and the mission that has already been given to that congregation. And when you're dealing with a smaller space, you are having to make sure that you're doing pastoral care. And so the capacity to do that, I would say is really about making sure that it's an opportunity to really learn many ways of ministry. It's an
Mm.
opportunity to really be in relationship with the people that
Yes.
God has given to you to care for. It's an opportunity to recognize that you can not just preach a word, to teach a word, but you can actually like sit and talk with folks about
Sure.
like
Mm.
how is this showing up in your lives. And so
Mm-hmm.
to treat it as a stepping stone, I think you diminish the benefit of what it means to be in real community with the people.
Mm.
And I think it feeds into actually the shame of what
Whoa.
it means to have a smaller
Yeah.
congregation is
Absolutely.
instead of being vulnerable and be brave and say, well, what can we do with the time that God has given us in this
Sure.
moment?
Sure.
But instead buying into, I'm looking for my next pension plan. I need my, and as opposed to being thankful and utilizing this opportunity that's been placed before you.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Reverend Green, what are your thoughts on that? What would you say to pastors who they see small churches as a stepping stone, you know, to something better?
Not to be spooky or super spiritual, but God is watching.
Woo.
Say that. Say that.
Didn't sound spooky to me.
God is watching.
Mm-hmm.
God desires and deserves
Mm-hmm.
our faithful stewardship
Yep.
Yes.
wherever we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like you said, Dr. Simmons, it could very well be a stepping stone opportunity. However, no
Could
one
be.
needs to know that.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't need to
Mm-hmm.
think that.
You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to think
Mhm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always
Mm-hmm.
amazed when I look at David, how for the rest of his life, even as king, he used the skills he learned in the sheep pen.
Mm-hmm.
There it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
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 So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Talking
like
sense.
Mm-hmm.
God has a way of using
Mm-hmm.
in the skills that you learn in obscurity
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and smallness and exposing them on
Mhm.
platforms. And like my sister said, last word of advice: get the most out of it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
You know,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Reverend, tell us how about you? What advice when you meet the young preachers, you hear them talking, and they trying to get to that next big step. What advice would you give to
I'm very concerned about church culture and
them?
its intertwining with um, American plantation capitalism.
Woo!
When
Not
you
the
were
plantation capitalism. Woo.
when
My,
you
my.
were discussing that, I started a small church, get to a medium church, and then get to my retirement church.
Yeah.
You were discussing a real estate transaction, not a call from God.
Whoa, whoa.
And so that even mindset, allowing that to seep into the people who are charged with shepherding our people, like
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
terrifying. That is
Mm-hmm.
terrifying. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if God called you and gave you the sacred responsibility of looking after his sheep, not yours, his sheep, and you go into that place with the mindset of what I'm going to extract from them for my
Yeah.
resume to move on to the next place, how
Jesus.
disrespectful,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're not operating in how the kingdom of God operates. You are
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
operating in the American capitalist society. That's how you're
Mm-hmm.
operating. And you've turned
Mm-hmm.
the prayers of God's people into a commodity. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Sheesh.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say examine yourself carefully before you stand behind anybody's sacred desk, because, like my brother Green says, Pastor Green says, God is watching,
Mhm.
and you might think you're getting away with it, but you're not.
Mm-mm.
Mm.
Your
Mm-mm.
heart will be judged
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that approach, preachers need to be real clear. It seeps into the way you do ministry and treat
That's right.
people, and people
That's
can
right.
Mm-hmm.
tell.
Sure.
They know you. They
They
know if you
know.
love them for real.
They
Mm-hmm.
know.
That's right.
They
That's right.
know
Mm-hmm.
if you have one foot in the pulpit and the other foot out the door.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
People know.
Mm-hmm.
People
They're
know,
completely
and
clear on that.
they will deal with you accordingly. They will
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
deal with you accordingly. And preachers need to be clear. Some of the problems that some of you all are having is because people see you got one foot in the pulpit and one out the door.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they wish
My
you
Lord.
weren't lukewarm. They wish you
Mm.
weren't lukewarm. Stay or go.
Absolutely.
Stay or go, but don't
Mm-hmm.
do that plantation capitalism as Reverend Sellers said to this. Oh my goodness, this has been so good. This ooh,
Sheesh.
I'm telling you.
Praise
Mm-hmm.
Rich.
God.
I told you all this was the group. Didn't I tell you? This is the
Mm-hmm.
group. That being said, Reverend Kelly, tell me some resources, because you're doing such wonderful work. So many people have talked about your great work and your approach to doing
Mm.
ministry. Tell me about books, websites, resources that have been helpful to you as you've pastored.
Mm. Interestingly enough, the first author that comes to mind is not a preacher at all, but is Brene Brown,
Uh-huh.
who does work on vulnerability and
Yeah.
the gifts of imperfection. And
Mm-hmm.
so realizing I'm not perfect at this. I'm not God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just supposed to be who God has called me to be. And so
Mm-hmm.
working on my own personal inner thing, that was very important to me. But also, I say most recently, Trisha Hershey's book, Rest is Resistance.
Yes,
I
Lord.
That's a good one.
being bivocational means that I need to sit it down. And unfortunately, what happens is you start preaching that to your congregation, and they start saying, "Well, Pastor, when you go?" I'm like, first of all, y'all stay about my business. But then as you're teaching it, then they're gonna try to hold you accountable. Turns out, but
Praise God.
definitely that has been a helpful thing. I would say my other resources that I get up at 4 a.m. Monday through Thursday and go work out. Um,
Whoa.
I
Yes.
get up and I go to terror training and
Yes.
I'm lifting weights and I think I'm running. She say I'm not. I feel like an Olympian, but she told me that I'm not. But I'm up and I'm trying
I
like
had a
moving
trainer
my
to tell
body.
me. I had a trainer to
Yeah,
tell me, Doc, you ain't running.
you're
Doc,
not
you
right.
walking kind of fast,
What
but
you
you ain't
doing? You
running.
walking real
So
fast.
I
You're not
feel you.
running.
I feel you.
And then the other
At
thing that
4
I
o'clock,
do.
4 a.m.
4 a.m. because I am bivocational. Because when
You
I
a
leave,
bad sister.
I gotta go to Scared Business Center and work on this transformative global leadership conference that we're
You a
doing in 2 weeks.
bad sister.
So I need that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy. So that means I got to go to bed earlier to get up and go and do that thing. And then every 2 weeks I'm in therapy. So in an
That
hour,
part.
I'm talking to Monet.
Hey,
And,
hey.
and these are the things like
Mm-hmm.
I've got to take care of myself. And
Mm-hmm.
as I am a good steward of this body that God has given me, and I
Mm-hmm.
love on me and love myself as much as I possibly can, then I
Mm-hmm.
can love God's creation much better.
Mm-hmm.
Like I won't commodify the people because
Yeah.
because I value the people. I value the work of what I've got to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
taking care of myself, doing that thing, realizing my own pieces, and then but I do I read ferociously. I love red lit theology. Push me on my theology. I'm listening to uh, Reverend Christian Smith. I'm on Holy Smokes. I'm trying to figure out, I want
Podcast.
to
Yeah.
hear podcasts. I'm
Yeah.
listening to things. I'm doing this work, and I'm always staying up on what's going on in the world, so that what I am preaching speaks directly to my people, and speaks to issues that the church doesn't often talk about, so
Mm-hmm.
that my allyship with the LGBTQIA community isn't just talk, but it's like, no, I'm listening, I'm reading, I'm educating myself. So
Mm-hmm.
though that is part of the work that I am doing, to make sure that I'm paying attention, and really honing what God has given me, so that I can be better at it.
Yeah, yeah, and I just wanted to, because my folk love to comment during broadcast, and I love having them do that. And somebody said, tell the difference between a transitional pastor and someone who's using the church for just a stepping stone.
Woo!
We know that transitional pastors are needed and do
Yeah,
good work, and we're not
yeah.
talking about them. I just want you to be
Not
That's
clear.
right.
interims.
That's right.
No,
Yes,
yeah,
not
That's
the
right.
interims
That's
who
right.
come in and do the work in
hey,
preparation for
That's right.
the
we know the
permanent. Yeah,
folk.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
We
right.
know the
Yeah,
stepping
yeah, yeah,
stone
yeah.
people. We know the stepping
Mm-hmm.
stone people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Reverend
Mm-hmm.
Green, tell us. Give me some books, websites, resources. Pastors need help. What you use?
I pulled a couple. Invisible Institution and Empire: A Culture of Resistance in America by Reverend Dr. Kurt Clark.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh, Reading the Bible from the Margins.
Good.
Mm.
Preaching That Speaks
Good.
to Women by Alice Matthews. Of course,
I know that one.
The Politics of Jesus
Mm-hmm.
by
Oprah.
Barry Hendricks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
with my
He a bad
sister,
boy.
yes sir.
Mm-hmm.
Then Emotionally Healthy Spirituality by Peter Cesaro.
Hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
addition to working out and therapy, but also community,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
um, having people that can pour into me,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
having people that we stand kind of shoulder to shoulder and we pour into each other, then having some people that I can pour into the people that are coming up behind me. So
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
that's
It's
been
mentoring
good.
and then
Mm-hmm.
working with a group of people who can pour into you and you can pour back, etc. So there's a common sharing.
absolutely. And
Yeah, that's
if it's nothing more than just being a sounding board
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and
Mm-hmm.
working through sermons, working through
mm-hmm,
That's
ideas.
good.
I partnered with somebody. We did a literacy program this past summer,
mm-hmm,
so I reached out to Dr. Charlie Dates in Chicago, who did it last summer, and say, "Man, how
mm-hmm,
did you do this?" And
mm-hmm,
he and the director, me and the director and I, talked all this year.
mm-hmm.
So not having to reinvent the wheel when you have
Right,
resources that have
right.
already kind of been where you are and do what you kind of
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yeah, listen, people, if there's something
Mm-hmm.
that you want to do, 9 times out of 10, somebody else has done it. They may not have done it as well as you're going to do it, but
Mhm.
they
Ooh.
can give you infrastructure steps.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
They can tell you
Mm-hmm.
about funding. They can tell you about
Mm-hmm.
other people to call. So definitely one of the great things about technology is that you can Google things.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
You can
Mhm.
Google that.
Yeah.
You can Google that.
And
Go
one
ahead.
more
Go ahead, Brother Green.
uh, shameless plug: the African American lectionary.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Simmons, thank you for teaching me about Lent because I didn't. When I got to seminary, Lent what?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you about
There's a joke.
liturgical
There's a
calendar.
joke that I've heard from a preacher years ago when the lectionary started about Lent and defining Lent. He said Lent. Anyway, I'm prayerful that the lectionary is coming back either late this year or early next year. Pray for funding. There's another group that's going to run it. It won't be me, but I'm praying oh yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
got to know when to move on at some point
Gotta
and
know
let some
when to
other
hold
people
them.
lead. But that resource has been used over the past, what is it, 12 or 13 years by over 10 million people. That's
Wow.
how big that resource is.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
left it up online because I see
Mm.
some pastors will find it now. Then another new group of pastors coming along. Then another new group of pastors are coming along. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I left it online. So God bless you for bringing that up. Uh, Reverend Sellers, so what you reading? What are your resources? What you doing? Give folks some help.
I want to first say, new pastors is me. I am new pastors because this is my first time hearing about the African American lectionary, and I will be getting that immediately.
Check it out. It's good. It's good.
It's
Don't
online
you worry about it.
for free.
I be new pastor, and
Mhm.
I will be
Nice.
looking at it very soon.
Mhm.
I have a couple of books that I return to yearly. One of them being Jesus and the Disinherited by Howard Thurman.
Mhm.
It is the
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's the book that I credit bringing me back to the faith, right?
Okay.
Because it allowed me to see Jesus as not just this faraway deity, but as a Palestinian Jew under Roman occupation, somebody I can
Yeah.
identify with.
Mhm.
And so it helped
Mm-hmm.
me with that framework. I just got done reading Christians Against Christianity
Yeah.
by the
Mm-hmm.
same author
Aubrey.
Yeah.
who wrote the
Robert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
bad boy, just very very good. So double tap to Reverend Kelly, double tap to Reverend Green. The only thing that I would add to both of those book lists um, is don't forget the wisdom of the elders.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
and our oral tradition as Africans,
Mm-hmm.
right? Some
Mm-hmm.
of the things that we need will not be given to you in a book.
Oh
It will be
Lord.
given to you through a relationship.
Ooh,
Some
that's
things are
good.
not taught; it's caught, and so you
Yeah.
have to be in proximity to some of our elders that have walked this road before, right?
They're a
That
Mm-hmm.
might
major
have been
resource.
Absolutely.
right. They
Mm-hmm.
might have been a bit ahead of their time on their thinking,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you can glean from them and take it further than they might have been able to take it because they
Right.
understood it long before it was popular.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I want to just shout out my Bishop Kenneth Paramore Jr. Of Christ
Mm-hmm.
Centered Church in Akron, Ohio. He has been that for me, being able to
Okay.
walk with him and understand and give me the freedom to navigate what it means for church now, post
Mhm.
pandemic, post a
Mm-hmm.
church, post a church population, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
most people my age, quite a few of them were not taught the Sunday school lessons that I was taught, right? So
Yeah.
what does
Yeah.
it look like to preach from that position, right? And
Right.
so, yeah,
Instead of
those are my
saying y'all
resources.
know the story, and the
Right,
75%
right,
of
right.
people in there, they don't know that story,
They
but we
don't know
need
the
to read
story.
it.
They don't know
Right.
the
They
story.
don't
That's
know
right.
it. They don't know it. And
That's
I
right.
just want to add one more thing. I don't want us to forget about fiction because it allows us to be able to think
Say
beyond
that.
what we can already see. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
for me, it is The Color Purple. by Alice Walker. It is Parable of the Sower, and the numerous books from Octavia Butler, as well as like I just finished the series, The Children of Blood and Bone, The Last Anguish, and Anarchy. Like being able to have a broader imagination in that, and for me, reading Black authors, it speaks directly to my spirit, and connects me with the ancestors.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much for that. And people are asking. So if some of you all could type in the chat some of the names of the books that you mentioned. And don't forget, they said it's resources. Someone said exercise, therapy, the elders, in addition to the books. Okay. And podcast. The Holy Smokes podcast, Reverend Kelly mentioned. So there are a variety of resources now that are available to you. So don't fail to use them. And like I said, Google that.
Absolutely.
Just Google that. I got tickled not too long ago. Someone came in my inbox and said, I went on Google and it gave me your name. And I was like, I don't know why they did that, but anyway, we'll talk. We'll talk. But Google just about anything you want to do or thinking about doing. It will direct you to other people. And then just call a pastor. Call someone who, everybody is not in competition with you. Okay? And there are people who will help you or direct you to someone else. They'll direct you to someone else. And Reverend Kelly, I want to thank you for talking about those fiction books, etc., to open up, our creativity. Just as people on the planet doing what we do, creativity is major. It's major. My time is up, and I mean, you all have been so wonderful. I could just go on and on talking to these people. Make sure that you let other people know about this broadcast. And I'm going to say this because it needs to be said. I didn't offer to pay any of these people. And they were just kind to me. But I'm going to make sure that they get a donation. If you are watching this broadcast today, and you all know, okay, I don't do this for the money. First 3 years I was on, this is year 7.5. First 3 years, it didn't even occur to me that I could ask for money. And finally somebody said, Doc, you working so hard, you paying people out of your pocket. Okay? If it's only $5, if everybody on here, just $5, I could give these guests a more significant gift. Like I said, I'm going to give them something just because that's the right thing to do. But $5, love my work, 1, 2, 3. Y'all know the Cash App. Like I said, this is year 7.5. $5. Please do that today. Please do. If you don't give any other time this year, please do that today. You can give 5.
My Lord.
I had a pastor who was pastoring a small church, bivocational. He gave 500 at some point. Exactly. So whatever you can do, I greatly appreciate it. Remember, next Monday is Project 2025, and we are coming with the information. And last but not least, as I say all the time, share the video. It won't cost you anything. And you know this one's going to bless some people. Share the video. Again, to my guests, God bless everyone. Have a great week. And we're going to all spend some time watching the Democratic convention, right?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
It's going to take over and the net and everything else anyway. It's going to take over. God bless everybody. Take care.
Thank you